And we are. I'm gonna start laughing as we go live.
Yeah.
Aren't we live? Mine says we're live.
I see live.
Oh my gosh, are we fully? Dude, it didn't even tell me.
I didn't hear
Okay.
that thing.
Well, usually you hear the ding.
I
And
didn't
then you
know.
know.
At all. Okay, well, hey y'all, check this out. You gotta love Google because they're always fucking with shit. So tonight we are talking about the fundamentals of spiritual cleansing. That was a topic that's actually been very intense lately. It has been brought up by a lot of people, and we have been asked actually quite often to talk about cleansing and protection and stuff like that. So we felt that it was time for us to talk about this. And again, if you have any questions, if you want to talk about anything, feel free to utilize the questions and answers thingy. Because we are here for you, and we decided to utilize that for everyone now. So anyone, questions, answers, we're here. So, someone else take over.
Well, the reason why I thought it essential to do the show on spiritual cleansing, we actually had a topic in the group that was deleted by Melissa because things just got stupid. But it was a good post, and it was a post that I would like, even if it has to be one of us, to reintroduce to the group. Just because I feel like there's a lot of learning that can be done by the different practitioners that we have in the group. And if anyone followed that post, you'll know that there was very different paths that went into topic there. And specifically, the post was on egg cleansing, and we can talk about that. But I did want to say the reason why that was deleted, and Melissa, I think, addressed it. And normally, it's not our practice to delete a post. Period. We just don't. It's not a thing that we do. But when things get too
Ridiculous.
ridiculous, exactly. The only option at that moment is to delete it, because the problem with it is no matter what good information was in that post, if it is offensive and it is, jabbing at people in a personal way that has nothing to do with debate, that's when it gets stupid. That's when it leaves a negative energy on the group in general, and we don't need it. And we need to cleanse ourselves of the fucking dumb fuckery. And Melissa deleted it, so there you go. But perfect segue into cleansing. Let's briefly talk about the practice of egg cleansing, and as a cultural practice and a specific practical practice.
Huh. Well, the first time I'd ever heard of egg cleansing was because of my lovely significant other, because he is very Latino, and it is a very big part of that culture, not just because of certain practices like Santeria, even though I believe that's probably one of the places it stems from more so than, even though I know it is in voodoo and hoodoo. So, but then those three kind of interchange stuff all the time. So, but anyway, he was the first person to ever tell me about it. And he showed me how his grandmother would perform it on him, which they would take the egg and run it, I believe it's downwards. I know it's only in one direction.
Yeah, it's only in one direction.
Right. I want to say it's downwards. I don't know. I'm not going to make him get up out of his bed as his poor back's hurting him to ask. But I want to say it's downwards. And it's just one direction. You repeatedly run the egg over. You're right. Not in the shell, not like cracked.
Right.
You keep it in the shell. Don't be spraying that stuff everywhere.
Oh no!
So you leave it in the shell. Anyway, repeatedly down the body, and it is supposed to draw the negativity out. And it's like he said, it just depends on who performed it. But with his grandmother, she didn't say anything. She would just run it down the body, all over, and then once she was done, that's whenever she would open it. And she'd crack it into a glass bowl, just a plain glass bowl, and depending on the color of the egg, that's how bad the negativity was. He said he had seen it where it was very cloudy, very dark looking. It's really kind of gross. And there's been times he said she would perform that for cousins and stuff, and he's even seen them come out black as pitch.
Right.
And that's usually a big, big problem, usually caused by something other than just being, spiritually kind of dirty. More is caused because of a hex or some other, and then there was a whole other process to deal with that.
Right.
But once she was done, then she'd wash the egg down the sink, or, well, they didn't have indoor plumbing, actually. This is his grandmother that lived in Mexico. So she would toss it out, and usually she'd feed it to the pigs.
Transference.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Pigs are filthy animals anyway, It's that whole, along those lines. And she was, devoutly Catholic, too, so.
Well, it is egg cleansing as a general practice. It is widely distributed over the cultural differences. Personally, for me, egg cleansing in this part of the country is from hoodoo base.
Yes.
But granted, curanderismo is very big in that. Brujeria, it depends on the brujo, and it depends on their cultural background.
Right.
Hoodoo, voodoo, Baptist, Catholic, tradecraft, Santeria. I don't know if Palo has a form. That's just not something that I'm very educated on. I'm sure it does. But there is a ton, and in our practice, it is not only used as a form of cleansing, it also heals, because
Right.
in the hoodoo practice, it can actually draw a fever, it can draw sickness,
Right.
it can draw, and it is, you read the egg.
Right.
Some put it in a bowl of water, some put it in a bowl of nothing, or a glass of nothing, glass of water, depending on. My people around here, especially my aunt, she would say that if the yolk was dark and the white was colored, meaning it had taken from the translucent form to the white form, you had a fever, and it had actually heated the egg to a certain degree that it actually started to cook the egg. And that is when she would take other practices into play. These practices are brought out of a area where they're rural. There is not much. Well, it's not that there's not medicine. It's that these people are not readily able to go and get the medicine. This is where these practices form from. So as a sense of spiritual and medicinal cleansing, this is where they come from. It's rural areas that weren't able to go to the doctor. And you read the egg, and for spiritual cleansing specifically, there is a million different ways and a million different people who would read it differently, right. Based on what the egg looked like, what it does. You go back to the witch trials. They said that Tituba would teach young girls, Tituba the slave, the witch, Tituba would teach egg reading as a practice. So that tells me that she come from a culture that had egg cleansing, spiritual cleansing, egg reading available to them, and then she brought it to the Americas naturally and taught it to young girls, and it was used as a form of divination in almost every study known as Tituba, it was a divinatory act. So it can also divine, spiritual cleanse, medicinally cleanse, and all of the above, and depending on who you are and where you come from, how you do it.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to sit there and think. Eggs are the one thing that no matter what your station in life, whether you were rich or poor, you had access to.
Right.
And since we've been able to understand that if we kept chickens, we would be able to eat their eggs. So you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So egg cleansing is something that is prolific through so many different cultures.
Well, at the end of the day, it works.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it works, and as a witch, it's what we do. Like, it works. It has that energy, that history to back it up, and we utilize it. And
because we do use whatever works.
Right, and it's fun. Like, I've known people. I was taught to start from the top and work your way down. Just like if water hits you, it's cleansing you from the head. It's getting rid of that, and it's pouring it all down. I know I've heard a few people talk about how they start from the bottom and they work up and they push out. Again, it just depends on how you are taught and what you resonate with. If it works for you, it works for you, and that's what's important. Because if you're going to do something, let's say you do it from the bottom, you work your way up, and I do it from the top, you don't do it the way I do it. And if you try to, it's not going to work as best for you. I love using it to divine. I like using it to see what's going on with someone, especially when it's meant to cleanse and clear and purify. You obviously you rub that egg, and depending on where you rub it, like if you line it with like chakra work or areas of the body, you can when you're rubbing it or putting it over that area, how it feels. And I always pay attention to how it feels, because if it feels more like intense up here, okay, I'll take that into consideration. And then when you break it and I put it in water. When you put it in water and you see it form, you pay attention to how how it drops and how it moves, and if you see any shapes, and all of that is so personal. And depending on your mentor, depending on who taught you and where you receive your information, you're gonna tailor all of what you see to that, coupled with your intuition and as well as your experience. So, and your life experience. It's not just like your experience as a witch, but it's as you move through life and you connect with other people and you learn. So you interpret that, and that will tell you so much about what's going on in the body. Yes, you cleanse it, but in order to really promote lasting cleansing, you need to understand kind of like the root of it. And so, using the egg to divine, you can do that. One way I will also utilize that is with poppets. Sometimes, I'm doing healing work and it's not with someone who's right there, so I'll take a poppet that represents them and I will, rub the poppet with the egg. Transference and representation of the individual and what's going on. So I'll do that, and I'll perform a healing or a reading. So and the other person doesn't always know, and that's up to the witch. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to. But I also utilize it in reading for others and checking in on things. But as for cleansing, it's just it's easy, and everyone has eggs. Everyone has the ability to find eggs.
It was
especially if you have chickens.
Yeah.
It was mentioned in the group, and I want to mention transference as a practice in general. It was mentioned in that post that we were talking about earlier, that depending on the practitioner, it doesn't have to be eggs, it can be anything. And
yeah.
That is so true. Transference energy is very, very, it's easily readable to everyone. If you know the basic principle of transference, and it was funny that Melissa said that her husband's grandmother would feed it to the hogs, because that was such a huge practice, because essentially what you absorb from the egg is transferred in the egg, and then when you give it to something else, it takes it transfers it from one being to another. And transference is huge in witchcraft. um, Witches have the innate ability to transfer their pain, transfer their discomfort, transfer anything that's going on with them into any other object, living being whatsoever. We talked about, well, I don't know if we, I know I've hinted on it in shows that a lot of times that's how a witch was really found out, was that they would do something amazingly easily, like childbirth, for example. They would transfer their pain of childbirth into the next living being or living thing that they could get their hands on that wasn't noticeable. So instead of giving it to a person, they might give it to their cat, and then the cat would scream the entire time the witch was being, um, well, going through labor, and that's how a lot of people would indicate um, a witch and using transference. But you can use a penny, you can use a leaf, you can use anything you want to. You can use, now granted, eggs are good to divine with, just because of how they're made up. They're easily, you can identify what's going on within the body with what happens to the egg, because eggs take on heat, take on um, nasty, gross, weird things. I know that my aunt has told me that she has cracked open an egg that was bloody before, and that's normally, it's amazing what can happen to the egg through the transference. But it doesn't have to be an egg; it can be anything. It's just that's egg is a available practice, but if you don't have an egg around, use anything to transfer that energy that needs to be cleansed into another item. So that's essential in spiritual cleansing, is transference.
Right, right. And the understanding that, and I think that's kind of important to comprehend, is when you transfer and when you cleanse something, you're not getting rid of that energy. You're not just making it, it's not ceasing to exist. It still exists. You're altering it. You're shifting it. You're transferring it to a different object, which, as a witch, you can utilize, if you, depending on how you place it, depending on how you utilize it. You can work with it, and you can save it, you can store it, or you can add it to a curse, especially if you're taking illness out of someone, especially if, let's say, you were intentionally targeted, and someone gave you something, and you could cleanse and transfer that illness or that dis-ease or something into an object. And with eggs, easier, because actually you can cook that egg. So if you transfer it into an egg, and let's say we're back when people had servants and all that stuff, they could utilize that, especially if they were cooking for someone. In the cooking, they would utilize things like that into the cooking, and you can do that to this day. Make someone a pie, take it to your neighbor who's doing you wrong or something. You can transfer that energy and make use of it. We don't get rid of it. We don't. Yes, we can neutralize it, but it's more fun. It's just the witch way to. Or the deviant witch way, I guess I should say, not all witches, to alter it and keep it going. And yeah, anyways, that was a little ramble off. But yeah, you can have fun with it, and that's kind of the thing, is transfer the energy, alter it, and bless someone the way they blessed you initially.
Exactly. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be, it is deviant to use it. To use that energy, because that's what we do, right? We do what is necessary, and we take what we have and we use it. So taking that energy, there's no reason to really discard the energy necessarily when you can use the energy.
Yeah.
And so, but if you're not into that kind of thing, which, if you're watching this and you're not into it,
you will be.
Yeah. So, but I have a spell, and I actually shared it with our members. Um, in members only, they get a lot of information from us personally, a lot of information from our black books, a lot of information that the public doesn't get. And one of the spells is actually a mistletoe spell. Mistletoe has a wonderful way of absorbing anything that it it has a very deviant witch vibe because it will use energy from anything. That's just mistletoe's energy. It doesn't differentiate between negative or positive energy. If it's there, it will leech. And I've used an egg specifically and transferred it from something and then gave it to mistletoe. And that is it not only one would say, oh, you're killing the mistletoe. You ain't killing mistletoe. Mistletoe is hard to kill, number one. Number two, it is a way to actually offer things to a mistletoe plant in a tree. They do not mind, and they will look at it as, the spirits of mistletoe look at it as a gift. They don't look at it as, you're giving me this nasty shit? No.
Right.
So,
The whole point of spiritual cleansing is, because cleansing is to purify, is to make clean, is to cleansing can be like you banish the illness, or you banish the negative, but the Cabot tradition, because I'm reading this book, is they say correct and incorrect. So they don't say negative and positive, because negative has a positive influence and positive actually can have a negative influence. So they utilize the terminology correct and incorrect. So it's very fascinating to understand that and to shift words. But so you can cleanse is to push out the incorrect, and to bring forth, and more so to make the body, the spiritual body, and the witch ready to be correct and to be in alignment, and to have that blessing, that influence of divinity, and to make sure that we have the best shot we have at anything. It's to make the body pristine again. It's to make the spirit pristine. It's to make the understanding that what we are and who we are is spirit, is perfect. And so to cleanse is to understand that at times we get clogged up. At times we have other individual influences and judgments, and sometimes spells being thrown at us and shit like that. So it's to understand that happens, and we pile up shit, and it's our own mind too. Like, we have different beliefs, we have different things that happen, and so we need to cleanse. We need to cleanse often, especially as a practitioner of magic, because when you cast and when you keep on working with spirit and when you divine, you are calling things, over and over, and you are working with that realm, and so things attach, and sometimes we are too busy, and sometimes we are too invested to see when things take root and cords are like implemented and planted into us. And so it is vital for the witch to implement spiritual cleansing quite often, not to promote paranoia, and not to make it unhealthy, because if you do spiritual cleansing too often, I believe that that's an unhealthy thing as well. But it's necessary, and we do it to have fuck, I'm rambling. We do it to be for clarity.
Right. Exactly. Well, okay, like for me, I do a lot of grounding, aligning in the morning especially. I always do meditation in the morning, always. I've done that for a very long time. And to me, it's extremely important as far as cleansing, though, like an actual spiritual, and I don't mean just like a physical cleansing. To me, there is a difference between spiritual cleansing and physical cleansing. But an actual spiritual cleansing, that's not something I do every day. But I do it at least once a week. Because I know for myself, I can tell. I can tell whenever I start getting all the junk building up, because I don't feel as good. I don't, my intuition is off. I don't get those gut feelings as often as I usually do. And so that's whenever I know, okay, it's time for a really good spiritual cleanse. Personally, for me, my favorite thing to do is jump in the shower. That is just, it's just body, physical, spiritual, the whole thing in one. And I personally like using salt scrubs
Hmm.
to cleanse, because to me salt is very much a purifier. A lot of people think of it as sort of a neutralizer, and I disagree with that. I also am another person. I don't have salt scattered a lot throughout my house. I don't use it in cleansing objects because I like my objects to have their spiritual connection to spirits.
Right.
And if you use a lot of salt, guess what? Those spirits are not going to come around. You don't put salt on your like ancestral altar. You know, put salt. I would put salt on my main altar personally. But anyway, I won't go into that. It's a whole nother rant. But I like to use salt scrubs because I do want to purify my spirit. I want to cleanse out my chakras. I want my aura to be clean.
Hippy dippy.
Hippy
Yeah.
dippy.
I think also, because I like to ramble, apparently. Um, oh shit, what was I gonna say? I totally lost it. It just went again. Okay, y'all.
You know, it's a lot of fun to also use if you like rosemary. I love rosemary. And I will put a bunch, like just a little bundle of rosemary, and hang it above on my shower head, you know, right behind the shower head. So the steam will release all that yummy fragrance.
Right.
And it is awesome for some spiritual cleansing when you combine that with something like a salt scrub. It just is amazing, especially if you have it in your shower where you've got a lot of steam going, and it just releases that fragrance really well. You have to change them pretty often, every couple of weeks or so. But I love that. To me, that's sort of a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, hurry up, spiritual cleansing. You know.
You know, like you were saying earlier about the feeling, you know, how what it feels like when you're clogged up and you know you need a cleanse. To be spiritually like backed up, it manifests in many ways and in different ways and varying ways for every witch. But you usually what you feel is lethargic, and it's not necessarily a physical sensation. It manifests physically, but the when you feel lethargic spiritually, it's worse. Like you just feel like a zombie, and it has that like your body's moving and you're not necessarily physically tired. You're spiritually drained, and you feel like you just are not motivated.
Uh-oh. It's like every time now, almost.
When he's saying something good, that's when it happens.
I know. Yeah, I think he's frozen. Like good and frozen. Oh, wait. Maybe he's coming back. No, I don't think he's coming back.
Damn it.
So, Hunter.
Well, oh God, cleansing. If I didn't cleanse, I'd go crazy. I pick up a lot of nasty. All witches do. All witches pick up energy from everything. And it's important to cleanse what doesn't make us better. And so there is huge importance in that. I actually love certain things that you make to cleanse with. And oddly enough, I've never thought of sugar being a cleansing agent. Never.
But it works so well.
It does. And, you know, I use your Sunshiny Day Scrub so often to cleanse, which is strange to say because it's a sugar scrub, but it is amazing. So I use, you know, a lot of bath products to cleanse. My wife, being a medium, is in need of cleansing constantly. So and mediums out there, Michael, you know the importance of cleansing for that reason. You have a gift that not only do you pick up everything from humans that you come in contact with, but you pick up little bits of spirits that are everywhere. And not that all witches don't, but specifically witches with the affinity to see and communicate with spirits often, where spirits can get their attention just any time of the day. It's incredibly important to cleanse. And we actually, best invention ever, we have a shop in Raleigh that is close to us that sells actual bath bars of Himalayan salt.
Oh my God. I bet that's amazing.
It's actually a friggin' bar. Like, it's shaped similar to like what a soap bar would be, but it is solid chunk of Himalayan salt. And it is amazing to cleanse with. And I do a lot of elemental cleansing. Do you guys do elemental cleansing in your practice?
I like using the elements to cleanse.
That's kind of my go-to for cleansing, especially when I'm performing a cleansing on someone else. That is really where I go to. Why is Michael randomly smiling, or is he frozen?
I think he's frozen again.
Damn it.
I think he's frozen. But I like using the elements to cleanse, especially like on Sabbaths for some reason. It really, to me, I like going out, like especially like with Ostera coming up. Oh my gosh, that is an amazing time to cleanse with elements. Especially if it's really nice. Right now our weather has been total shit, like total shit. I guess if you really want to focus on your water element, now would have been perfect time. We had way excess. But yeah, I love doing that. I love going outside, and I will do just a very simple kind of ritual where I will build a fire, a small, like in our fire pit, and sit outside with my bare feet in the sand. And we always have wind here, always. And then we're right by a lake, and so I'll grab a little bit of the lake water and just sort of sit there and just feel all those elements around me and just actually be in the elements. Granted, I'm not going to stick my foot in the fire or anything, but you can feel the heat. And you can feel the sand in your toes, and you can feel the wind in your face, and it is amazing. And I just let each element sort of course through and cleanse, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But then I'm an earth baby, so.
Well, hopefully I don't fucking freeze and die.
Right.
Because apparently something does not want me to speak tonight. Okay, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say. But I do. I cleanse with the elements. More so, I step outside. Like, I'll go outside barefoot, and I pull that energy into me, and I'll become the element. I will allow my physical body to be something that is no longer like my physical body. My understanding of it and my perception shifts, and so I focus myself like on the earth and the earth element, and I pull it through my body and through all bodies and the spirit body and everything, and so I become it. And as I become the earth comes in and it shifts, it moves things in the bodies that are no longer necessary, and it works to bring that earth influence in and grounds out and protects and nurtures whatever is necessary and what needs to be done as I'm doing that. And then as I feel the air, I then become the air, and I do the same thing. And as I feel the sun, I become fire. And I might have like a spray bottle if it's not raining, and I'll just throw mist up and I'll fill the water, or I'll have like a tub of water, and I will stick my feet in the water after I do the earth, and I'll allow that to be my connection to the water. And then what I will do after I do that is I will go to my altar and I will become spirit. I already am spirit, but I will go to my altar, my main altar, and I will connect with the ancestors. Okay, I'll connect with certain ancestors, and I will become in that energy, and I will call them by their names, and I will shit. I can't. Okay, so yeah, I will do that. I will go to my altar. I'll become that spirit essence, and then I am cleansed and ready to go. Fuck.
Well, then I'm gonna take the reins from you just for a little bit. I'm echoing. Okay, I'm better now. But I do very similar to what you're saying personally as a personal cleanse with the elements. But when I'm performing a cleansing, I will I'm not always outside, oddly enough. I do open a window often during a spiritual cleanse. And I think that's a little bit essential because whatever is getting out needs to go somewhere, and I don't want it to stay. So that's my thought process anyway when it comes to things like that. I will open a window, but a lot of times it's on our couch because I'm talking about my wife, or
Right.
it's on our bed, and I am talking about spiritual cleansing here because it's starting to sound a little weird. I will take a candle if I'm inside, and fire is normally what I start with, and I'll tell you why. Fire has such a purifying, such a cleansing energy. Just the element itself is purification. It burns away what burns, and what's left is what is left. And I will ask the element. I will bring it in, and I will ask the element to permeate the body. And I always start from top to bottom. So I always start from head to toe. It's head first, all the way through the body to the toes. And I will push the elemental energy through the body with each element. And a lot of times, which it's a personal thing, a lot of times I'll have a cup of water. And at the end of wherever I am, I will have a cup of water to absorb everything that is being cleansed out, and I will place it in the water each time. Because all of the elements cleanse differently, and some cleanse better than others. And a full elemental cleanse is just a wipe. It's a clean slate a lot of times. Air is a hugely cleansing element. It's not really thought of very often, but it's intense cleansing energy.
Absolutely.
It can permeate you in a way that will wipe things clean that you didn't even know was fucking there, and it does that. Water replaces you with a sense. It not only cleanses, but it replaces you with a sense of well-being. It's kind of the higher of the elements. Whatever it gets rid of, it also kind of places positivity in its place. And that's a part of the healing process, because I do think that a good spiritual cleansing also is a spiritual healing.
Right.
And the earth absorbs so much. It takes and roots whatever is through the body, and it just takes it away, and it places it where it needs to be placed. And whatever's left that I put in that water, I will go out and I will take the water, I will pour it on my land, I will give it to spirit of place, I will give it to the element of the earth, and it will ground that energy, and it will take it and it will use it to whatever it needs to use that energy for.
Right.
So that's what I do. As far as elemental cleansing goes.
Well, I do see. I love doing cleansings, which yes, cleansing to me is the road opener to healing. So it's to anything. It's the first step in many, depending on what you want to do. But I do a lot of cleansing, and I work it in my healings. So I do something very similar. Like I said earlier, becoming the element, and that's kind of why it's a really good thing for which to have a personal relationship with the elementals, because you can actually work with them and channel them or channel elements depending on how you, if you know, separate. Uh, Whatever. But we also have Deviant Witchery Reiki, which we have symbols for the earth and for each element and other things that are now more like fine tuned and like have that focal point where you can utilize that to bring that energy. And it's more fine tuned again. It's not something that's chaotic and it's a little more. It's easier to access, I guess I would say. But I do that. But I do. I channel the elements, and I also go from crown to foot because you're tearing down. Like you want to bring that cosmic essence, I guess. When I'm going from the head, I think cosmic, divine, and you're pushing that energy into as you bring it down and get rid of the negative. So as you're bringing that energy from the crown, you're releasing into the earth or wherever you're releasing, but you're releasing it and you're getting rid of the negative, like the waste and the toxicity. So I also use the tarot.
Yes.
Tarot cards. The tarot. Tarot.
Tarot.
Some people like carrot or parrot. But yeah, you can use tarot cards, and this is more along that I should say for healing. But in regards to cleansing, a really awesome way to understand the cards as well as utilize them and their influence in cleansing is to shuffle, focus on cleansing your target, or shuffle the deck, and when it feels right, stop, take the deck, and like same thing with the egg, rub it, rub your target with the deck, cut it, and if your target's with you, have them pick a stack, and then take like 3 cards and utilize those 3 cards as indicators as what needs to be cleansed, because you don't have to just do a full body cleanse always. You can have a specific thing that might need to be cleansed in one's life. And so if you have understanding, you have 3 cards laid out, that will give you information as to what in their life experience, what in it could be their work, or that cleansing needs to be done on the home, a cleansing needs to be done on the body, or something. The tarot can bring that energy and assist you in understanding, and as well you can channel the card energy, like you can embody the card energy and bring the healing to the client and allow that to cleanse them.
Well, that is amazing, but I'm gonna ask a question here because I'm a learner when it comes to tarot. Tarot.
Tarot.
What cards, specific card energies, would you use for cleansing?
For me, it just depends, but I always incorporate death, and I always incorporate tower, because...
That's interesting.
Because death and tower, they're vital to cleansing. You have to tear down, really, in order to build up. And when you want to cleanse, you really are trying to get rid of something. You're trying to get rid of something so you can bring something good. Well, death is double-edged sword. Death has the power to basically kill, but it also has the power to rebirth. And death creates change. So the tower is what comes in and it breaks everything. It finally gets you to that breaking point. Like you're kind of like tiptoeing or whatever, and you're like, tower comes in, hits you, and bam, you break. You broke, and you're crying and you're releasing. Death comes in to like really root that energy, and death says, okay, keep crying, motherfucker. Keep crying and keep releasing, and you need to let go, you need to release, you need to become someone different. And so the card death comes in to really kind of like nail that shit in and throw salt in the wound and to make sure that you understand that this is necessary. You have to die in order to live. And then death, after you finish releasing, death with blah, 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 death will also come in to nurture you, because death is not judgment. Death will come in and kill you, but also help you to be reborn. So death builds up as well as it tears down.
You know, I love those cards in cleansing, but another card I really enjoy is the star. Mainly because you look at the star and there's always someone cleansing something in when that card is depicted, but also because I don't know, to me that's just something that represents cleansing to me.
Right.
That bright light, that one light shining down on you. You're pulling well, I mean, whenever I get ready to ground, whenever I align, that's how I visualize it, is a light coming down and entering through my head all the way down into the ground. And it just, I don't know, that cool cleansing feeling of it entering your crown and exiting out through your feet.
Right. Another thing that was just kind of just popped in here, depending on the type of cleansing, because let's say something new hit you and you're going through something new and it hasn't taken root really, so you have this new thing that needs to be cleansed. We can kind of take our elemental cleansing and utilize the tarot cards, so you can take the pages of each deck and then possibly a major card to represent spirit to tie it all in. You can utilize the Wheel of Fortune to represent that you have it all together. You can utilize the Tower and the Death card. It just depends on what you need. But you can take the pages to represent, like, okay, this is a new thing. We're going to cleanse this out now. You can, if it's steadily progressed, you can go with the Knights. And then if it's something that's been around a long time, especially curses, you can work with the King and Queen of the deck. And yeah, okay. So King and Queen of the deck, and then if it's something new, like again, if it's you can use like the entire suit, like the Royal Court, for something that just won't budge.
Right. I agree, yes, sir. It's so weird. We've been talking about cleansing, and now everything, like my drink, tastes really salty. I taste a lot of salt for some reason right now. It's really weird. Very strange.
I have so much to play with now when it comes to, like, and then I just had, like, this weird, like, nasty thought about cleansing someone who doesn't necessarily need to be cleansed, and, like, cleanse them of more than what is necessary as a malediction. And then I was like, oh, Fool. I would totally incorporate the Fool in wiping someone's slate totally clean, of not just in a positive way, but also in a negative way, because what needs to be understood is there is a lot that our spirit learns from and a lot of energy that our spirit grows from, and to wipe it completely, you know, you think about bacteria. When someone says bacteria, they're like, ugh, bacteria. Well, though, that's not entirely true. There are millions and millions of bacteria that are hugely beneficial for the body. So in that same way, there are a lot of things that our spirits come in contact with that are hugely beneficial, that don't really need to be cleansed, and that's the fun thing. And that's what I was thinking about the Fool card, and how the Fool is so blank slate.
Well,
you know, and it's so new, and it's the beginning, and what has been learned by that spirit could have, in a certain way, be back to the basics.
Right, and the blessing of the Fool is like it's the beginning as well as the ending. Like the Fool has this The full is the new starting, but the full also has everything, the whole suit, the whole experience within. Like they have that knowledge somewhere, it's just not tapped into yet.
Right.
But that's kind of like another thing that just reminded me of was that's the importance of not being paranoid while cleansing and not doing it too often. And like Melissa expressed salt as something that we utilize. Too much salt dehydrates. Too much salt
Right.
away. So if you don't replenish after you do a cleansing, you need to. So after you do cleansing, and again, if you do too much, it can make you feel worse. So after you cleanse, you have to make sure you replenish and you nourish. And this was something I was going to bring up. Won't talk too long on it, but that's kind of where I think the Christians got it right. Is they bless everything. They bless their food, and I don't know many pagans who do, or many witches who do. Ever so often, but not regularly. So once you cleanse and you go for food, your food needs to be made whole again. It needs this energy, the spirit energy in food is horrible. So especially if you don't grow it yourself, so you need to connect with it and kind of alter its makeup and make sure that that food is blessed because you're putting that into your body. The witch is taking that in, and so you want to make sure that as you take that in, even if it's like mass gross processed shit, you still have the opportunity and the power to alter it so as you take it in, it doesn't have such a negative influence on the body. So that's important as well.
Right. And well, and it's very simple to do too. Like today for dinner, I made this really incredible salad, and I noticed that I don't know why, but like I know my parents, granted, a lot of their stuff came out of the garden, but especially stuff that was bought from the store, they'd always wash it. They'd wash the salad, they'd wash the lettuce, they'd wash everything. And I've noticed that people don't really do that nowadays. It's really weird to me. But especially whenever you think about where that food comes from, the fact that it was in the back of a very dirty truck and travel along the road for so long. It's very strange to me whenever I watch people and they don't wash their stuff before they start cooking with it. But anyway, that's what I do. While I'm washing that food, while I was washing the romaine lettuce, I'm like, cleaning it and blessing it.
Mm-hmm.
Water is like Michael said, even Christians, Catholics anyway, but Christians too, will use water, the whole baptism. Yes, exactly. Baptism in water, blessing with water. I mean, it's very much almost instinctual thing to do. And so it's just a really simple thing to do. You're washing all the ingredients that you're about to use to make this meal. So you cleanse it and bless it all in one. Bam. That's simple. That quick.
Bam.
It's so funny because, the Christian, I agree. And whatever. Full disclosure, I'm going through a weird spiritual transition right now. So, I was raised Baptist.
You bless your heart.
Bless my heart. I was raised Baptist. My granddaddy, my stepfather, not so much my dad. My dad's more the Cherokee, but my grandmother, not so much my mom because she's not super religious. But there are a lot of people in my life that they will not eat a fucking cracker unless they bless it. And when we sit for a meal, in every group of family member that I have at their home, we will bless it. And I say we because I am along with that. My energy is with that as well. So even though they are praying, and it's not necessarily, in my opinion, that I disagree with what they're praying to and what they're praying with, but for a long time I struggled with that. And it's important to know that the energy that is being expressed in those circumstances are for cleansing, it's for purification, it's for blessing of the food. There are a lot that goes into food, especially we all live rurally. there are a lot of people in our lives, us three here, that our food might have literally came from a farm. It literally might have came from an animal. There's a lot of energy there that something has been replaced, something has been cut off from a source so that it replenishes our body. And it's important to acknowledge that and to bless it for our benefit. So I totally agree with it. And as much as whatever is being prayed to, I am down with it. I'm like, yep, this food is blessed. This food is to provide for me. This food is food, and that's essential. And I'm also struggling with that. The difference between food for nourishment and food for pleasure, and there's a difference, and your body knows the difference, and clearly it reacts to difference. So if your body at some cellular level knows that, our spirits need to know that and need to acknowledge that. And before I close out on this random weird tangent I'm on, we just spoke about the new moon because we just had a new moon. And I wanted to touch on the cleansing aspect of the new moon. And something that Michael said about the replenishment and the to replenish the spirit after it's cleansed. The new moon for me is such an important time for cleansing. And instead of necessarily replenishing, I focus on what's left. Because when I do a spiritual cleansing on the new moon, I mentioned it our last show, that a lot of times I will burn away all that is not necessary, all that will not aid me in growing, all that will not aid me in my spiritual growth thus far. And what's left is what I focus on. What's left is what I nourish, and what is left is what I know needs to be replenished regularly, needs to be focused on, needs to be worked on. And that's how I take the new moon energy, which burns away all that's not needed, all that's not necessary for the witch. And what's left is necessary and needs to be worked on and needs to be grown, because just because it's left doesn't mean it's finished.
Right.
Just because it's there, just because that new moon energy didn't clear it away, doesn't mean that it's won the race. It's still running. It's still growing, and it's still at a place of transformation, and it's still at a place of it's necessary to continue to focus on those things, because just because you think that it's beneficial to you, something that's beneficial at this time, if it's left alone, can become something that's not beneficial. And it can drag you down instead of bringing you up spiritually. And that is something that personally in my craft at the moment I'm working on, because just because you think that you're good in something and you're practiced in something doesn't mean that it can't grow and it can't become better. And that's so important when you cleanse.
Absolutely. That's and on that note, y'all. Before we close up, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask. We would definitely love to hear what y'all have to say. But I absolutely agree, and that's kind of what I was going to say earlier. Is a perfect time for cleansing the spirit and just really cleansing is a few days before the new moon. Go on a small detox. Research it, do juicing, do whatever you do, or even a few days before the new moon, go full on veg. Go vegan, eat veggies, cut out your sugars, cut out cheese, cut out. Go vegan, and that's just for a couple days, 2 to 3 days before the new moon hits. Not hard at all, y'all, because it's just not. And do that, and each day focus on something that you will release, that you need to understand, you need to let go, you need to embody for that moment, and then process and release it. And at the new moon, that's when you take it from cleansing to nourishment. That's when you bring in the new moon energy, because you just tore yourself down in a sense, not necessarily a horrible way, but you allowed yourself to become vulnerable and raw. And what the new moon does is it replenishes, it builds up, repairs tissue, it repairs emotional trauma, especially when you work it this way. So it helps you that way, and that's something that's very important to at least have the option to do. But yeah, that's
I like it.
Also,
Yes.
what I wanted to say really quickly is that if nobody noticed, I look very different tonight
oh
because I
my
have no beard. So, in the aspect of cleansing, for those that don't know, I'm an actor. So, for fun, I like to, become a different person for a time and then forget about that person ever existing. But anyway, um, I just realized, and I've realized it since when I shaved yesterday, how cleansing and how raw and how reflective it is to get rid of something that you're so used to. And in so many ways, my facial hair was a shield for me. Um, and it collects energy and it collect just like everything. I know this is just a weird fucking thing to talk about, but it is so true because in so many ways this is my face, but I don't feel myself without my facial hair because I'm so attached to it. But essentially, this is the face that I was born with because I didn't have the hormones to grow facial hair when I was young. So this is very reflective of who I am and very cleansing in a way because it cuts away what I have been using as a crutch to really cause reflection in myself to know what I need to work on. And so if you're a man or a woman who grows a beard, I don't know. I don't know your life. Um, if you do, and if you find yourself um, unable to get out of some slump, not only just cutting a beard, but getting a haircut or making a physical change is very clarifying and it's very clearing. It's very cleansing in a way. Um, and making a physical change can very much so tear down so much and cleanse you in a way. Yes, I feel like that. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, y'all, we're gonna have to check off here, but before we do, I want to make a few announcements. We are having a Beltane festival online. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna have a party. We're gonna have a lot of content, and we're gonna try and bring in a lot of different people and just share information and support each other. And it's gonna be fun. So we will create an event within the next few days to prepare and to get everyone excited about it and join that. 'Cause it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um,
It is.
and there was one more thing I was gonna say, and I totally lost it. That's what
Oh,
happened.
well, I think this is a perfect time to announce some new things for Deviant Witchery. In particular, possible exclusive content when it comes to actual physical fucking items because we are officially working on a signature line of Deviant Witchery products that will be released later this year, and it is something for all of us to get excited about. I'm personally excited about it.
Me
And
too.
it's a long time coming, and I think we
Yeah.
all know that. But it's something that I think is going to be wonderful, and I wanted to announce that tidbit of information.
It's gonna be dangerous because yes, the Deviant Witchery signature, very exclusive line is coming, and we are all part of it. And I don't know, it's just gonna be very raw, very dangerous. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, y'all. So if you would be so kind, we would love to hear your comments, on the YouTube video, hear what you have to say about what we expressed, and also video responses. If you would make a video and tell us about your cleansing techniques and what you feel, is very vital as a spiritual cleansing information. If you want to write a blog post, if you have a page and you want to just put it up there, share it with us. Like, let us be aware of a response. But we would all like to see everyone get involved again. And yeah, I like watching your videos. Like, and I will be honest, I don't have much time, so I don't really watch a lot of other channels. I have a very select few that I like always watch. But if I know that you do a video response, if you're a part or you're an extension of Deviant Witchery, I will make the time. I always have time for Deviant Witchery, so I will always watch your videos. Just make sure that you make us aware of them.
Post them in the group.
Yes.
Post them in the group. We will definitely know about them and watch them if you post them in the group.
I fucking love responses. It's how I fell in love with Melissa. That is the honest to God truth. I love her as a
I'm so glad because I love you.
Oh,
We're
gosh.
friends now, but first I fell in love with her through her video responses from our channel. So just, you know, well, I love watching video responses.
So, with that being said, y'all have a good night. We gotta go. Peace.
Adios.
Bye.